Back to President Trump's speech next hour at the United Nations. Mary Anastasia O'Grady is with us. Now, she's a Fox News contributor. She's a Wall Street Journal columnist. Welcome to the... This is your first appearance on Barney & Company.
I think it might be.
Whoa, it's spectacularly impressive. Now, the president is going to say America first, and he's going to say that to the assembled world leaders. How's it going to go down?
Well, Stuart, you know, I think that obviously nationalism is a dirty word.
Yep.
No one likes that attitude. But on the other hand, what the members of the UN, many of the members of the UN, are looking for is U.S. leadership. This idea that the U.S. is sort of just going to hang back and go with everybody, it didn't work. It was a disaster with President Obama. And so they're looking for leadership. And if he says America first, but also couples that with a kind of, a moral arguments for why the rest of the world has to come with us to confront things like North Korea, Iran, problems in Venezuela, I think it will go down very well.
Well, it's certainly very different from President Obama's approach. That's a fact. I mean, this is a very new presidency.
It is different, but, you know, I have to say that President Obama thought that by hanging back like that, the U.S. was going to be very popular. And in fact, the rest of the world is horrified by that because
really?
we are the leader. We need the leadership. And a lot of these countries, it may not be politically correct, they want that U.S. leadership.
That is fascinating. I want to move on to Venezuela. I know you're an expert there. President Trump tweeted this about Venezuela last night. Here it is. We call for the full restoration of democracy and political freedoms in Venezuela, and we want it to happen very, very soon. We understand he's going to call them out in today's speech. How's that going to go down?
Oh, I think that will go down very well. I mean, the Venezuelan situation...
With other Latin American leaders?
Yes. The Venezuelan situation has actually brought people together in Latin America. Not everybody. Okay, the Cubans are not going to be happy, the Castros. But you have, on the South American continent, a lot of countries that are very worried about what they see in Venezuela. It's interesting. For 6 decades, you had the Cubans sort of, committing every human rights violation you could imagine. And yet, somehow, morally, nobody ever called them out. And now you see the same situation in Venezuela, and it's almost like these other countries are thinking, if something is not done about this guy, we're going to be the next thing that he eats for dinner. And, they want the U.S. help, and they're coming together. I mean, you've had the Mexican president and the Peruvian president brought their foreign ministers together from a number of different countries in the region for a meeting in Lima last month where they denounced the end of democracy and the human rights violations in Venezuela.
This is fascinating. We never heard about this meeting of Latin American leaders condemning Venezuela. We never heard about it.
It was very important, and in fact, the Peruvian president, who had to stay in Peru because he's had a problem with his cabinet, is not at the meeting. And the Mexican president, of course, did not go to the dinner last night. He decided to hang back.
Well, that's for domestic political reasons.
There's problems there between the two administrations. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, many countries, again, that historically were completely mum about Cuba, they are getting together and saying these human rights violations are completely unacceptable, and we have to come together to resist it.
Mary, this is fascinating.
It's a big moment in history.
It really is, because I've always thought that America was just vilified. In the United Nations, we were the numero uno enemy. And suddenly, there's this realization that we're not. Without American leadership, you guys are toast. Everything's going wrong. Yeah,
the one thing I think that President Trump has not done well in Venezuela is he doesn't have an assistant secretary for Western Hemisphere. And Rex Tillerson is using very much the career guy at the State Department to shape policy there. And it's, in my opinion, been too conciliatory, too much about dialogue, and not enough about taking the toughest stances we could in order to force Venezuela to return to democracy.
Mary Anastasia O'Grady, that was a spectacular first performance on Barney and Company.
Thank you.
If you're not careful, you'll come back. Thank you very much.
It would be my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.